about discipline so that anybody who cross the line, whether it's captain or not, you're doing that. So we have seen this radical transformation of the team. Yeah. And we are confident that it's building up.
We've been seeing pictures of the National Stadium pitch, and the state of the pitch at the National Stadium, I don't think has been up to standard, really. So just wondering, somebody in fact did ask at one point in time whether it is possible to have something like artificial turf instead of the normal grass, the natural grass that grows, have probably artificial turf, to just do the pitch.
Yeah, well, exactly. In fact, that has been one of the points I bring to the Football Association. And the Football Association has a grant from FIFA that makes it possible for FIFA to create artificial turfs. Now, and FIFA says, only turf that the Football Association owns, then they can run that position. And we have developed a system whereby, football turfs are controlled either by the government or by provincial administration. This has been the thing. And the SLFA does not have any investment in football in terms of infrastructure. So the majority of matches are played at the Football Association, the National Stadium, And why can't the SLFA ask FIFA to put an artificial turf at the stadium? Look, we suffered disastrously. When we played against Cameroon, our boys were up the game. We already scored 1-0 against Cameroon, but the pitch was so sluggish. What happened was that we considered an own goal by our defense player because of the badness of the turf. So in match we lost because of the turf. So if FIFA is supporting SLFA or developing countries, why can't they make sure that they should realize that and the SLFA, we are under the control of government, and the government was paying SLFA, Secretary General, President, etc., etc. So why should they sort of create this kind of cleavage when we are no longer under the iron curtain and that sort of, East Bloc, West Bloc, and that sort of thing? To ensure that if they want to help to develop football, let them give this stuff to countries without any benchmarks. That unless the FLFA should own a playing ground, or it should be under their name. How is that possible when the SLFA, we are under, for example, in Salone, the National Sports Council, and paying their salaries and all that sort of thing. So FIFA itself is undermining football in developing countries, instead of promoting them, and creating also a cleavage of political interference where, in fact, we should work together in line to develop football so that at the end of the day we have transparency and accountability, where government is accountable and the SLFA also accountable for funds being given to them by both FIFA and CAF, so that we can all stick together and plan for the best for the youth sports, instead of having people who, FIFA have their own way of accountability. They say, okay, government should not interfere. We have the Anti-Corruption Commission, which is binding to everybody. So Anti-Corruption Commission cannot even interfere. But at the end of the day, they don't have a system of accountability and transparency. So all these sort of things, which I frown upon. But at the end of the day, we are hopeful that we are charting a new cause. And the cause that we are charting is that everybody must realize that we are in sports under the domain of alone, and we should all come together, do the right thing, put everything on the wheel to ensure that at the end of the day, alone comes best of any selfish interest of any individual or individual.
Mr. Minister, thank you so much for granting us this interview, and I think we've heard so much from you, and you've given us a gist, at least, of what is really happening in your ministry. Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you very much. God bless.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, the next part of this episode is going to be a panel discussion, which will be moderated by Mr. Leslie Koroma from the United States. The topic for discussion is going to be Sierra Leone is a hotbed for natural talents, but how do we harness our potential as a nation to become a global powerhouse in sports? I'll go over that again. Sierra Leone is a hotbed for natural talents, but how do we harness our potential as a nation to become a global powerhouse in sports? And that will be moderated by Mr. Leslie Koroma from the United States. Yes, thank you for listening.
You are listening to Voices from the Diaspora.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Voices from the Diaspora and our 8th weekly show, which this week is dedicated to sports. We all know that sports is the biggest single social phenomenon that galvanizes people together, regardless of their individual differences, and can therefore be a major factor that builds unity and also enhances development in any nation on earth. In today's program, we're going to be discussing the topic, Sierra Leone, a hotbed for natural talent. How can we as a nation harness our God-given potential to become a global powerhouse in sports? And to discuss this very salient and critical topic, we have members of the panel who we consider to be major stakeholders in the interest of moving Sierra Leone sports to a higher level on the show today. From France, we have Ms. Eunice Barber, multiple gold and silver medalists at the World Championships and various other competitions around the world, who though resides and competes for France as a Sierra Leonean by every sense of the word, and a very strong advocate for the development of sports in Sierra Leone. Ms. Barber?
Yeah, hello. Hello, everyone.
All right. From Freetown is Mr. Rodney Michael, who every Sierra Leonean football and sports fan know for his love for sports, especially football, and his strong involvement in the football business of Sierra Leone. He's a very strong advocate for growing the game of football to global standards. Mr. Michael is also an aspirant to the Sierra Leone Football Association presidency. Mr. Michael?
Hi, Les. Good evening to all your listeners.
Thank you. Then we have Mr. Modupe Jonah from Texas, who's one of the few Sierra Leoneans who have won an international medal for our country in athletics competition. In 1989, Modupe won a bronze medal in the 3,000-meter steeplechase at the Friendship Games in Kuwait. So Jonah is a member of the Sierra Leone Athletics Coalition, an organization put together by former athletes, Sierra Leonean athletes, to help develop and support athletics in Sierra Leone. Mr. Jonah?
Hello, listeners.
Also on the panel, we're supposed to have Mr. John Conte, who is the Public Relations and Media Officer for the National Premier League football team, FC Johansen, and a special assistant to Ms. Aisha Johansen, owner of the football club, who's also an aspirant to the presidency of SLAFA. John will be joining us at some point in time of the show. We have some technical difficulties with him, but we hope that he will join us. I'm your host, Leslie Koroma. I'm a very strong advocate for sports development in Sierra Leone. I'm also involved in various other levels of sports media as well, and I'm also a member of the Sierra Leone Athletics Coalition. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let me start by putting the general question to you all and get your take on the view about our topic of discussion today, which is how can we as a nation harness our God-given potential to become a global powerhouse in sports as a nation? After you guys address the topic, we'll go on to address particular issues afterwards, which are relevant to pushing sports to a whole different level in terms of its development in Sierra Leone. We'll go with the lady first, always as a courtesy, Unice, what's your take on this topic?
Actually, my perception is just the perception of the individuals of the Sierra Leone committees. You have to put yourself in the international level in anything. For me, in anything I'm doing, I'm not comparing myself with Sierra Leoneans because I'm not putting myself in. Sierra Leoneans have to be my teammates, but I'm competing with Chinese, Europeans, and different, high level competitors in the world. So I think it's just the perception of how we see things. We have to put ourselves in confronting the other nations. So if we put ourselves in confronting other nations, then we have to put the strategies to confront other nations because they have strategies, and then we don't have that. So it's all about strategies and perception.
Okay, well, thank you. That's a unique take, and your perception, basically, your idea basically on this topic is it's about perception in the ability for Sierra Leoneans in particular to have that perspective to be able to look at themselves as global competitors instead of just relegating themselves to where they feel like they belong to. I'll go on to Rodney. We'll address this topic in the general discussion as we go along. Rodney, what's your take on this?
Well, first of all, Leslie, we have to follow the famous quote from the great Nelson Madiba Mandela when he addressed the South African Rugby World Cup team and suggested that sports has the potential of uniting a people. And once you believe in that, then we can take sports as a serious entity, as something that can unite this nation and develop this nation. And like the topic is saying, or the question is saying, how do we harness that potential so we can compete as a global powerhouse? Now, we must first of all acknowledge that there is potential in sport. There is sporting potential in Sierra Leone. And if you go on a research, you'll find out that not only in football, because football is by far the most dominant sport in Sierra Leone. We produced stars in the past, we continue to produce them, and we have a lot of talent at club level. But we have potential evidence of players that have played rugby for Wales, for England, players like Danny Wilson, the former Welsh rugby player. He's a Sierra Leonean in all respects. Bai Maccabi, a former rugby player for England, is a Sierra Leonean by all respect. You take Eunice Barber, for example, an athlete we all watched and admired and appreciated. Modupe, for example, we have the talent. Even in the game of American football, which we don't play in Sierra Leone, we can now boast of about 5 or 6 Sierra Leoneans competing in the best competition in the world, the American Football League. It shows that we do have the talent. We have to acknowledge having that potential, and now we have to come together as a nation, appreciate the importance of sport, find a way of developing our structures and finding the resources to develop these structures so that we can tap the talent at a younger level. And instead of becoming an exporter of sporting talent, let us use our sporting talents to build our national teams. And only when we bring back our sporting talents, we stop producing footballers like Stephen Cocker for England. We stop producing players like Alfred Koroma for the USA. We bring them to Sierra Leone. We pick the best for Sierra Leone. But only then can we compete as a global powerhouse in sport. But we do have the potential. We need to develop the structures to harness the potential and bring it back home.
Wonderful, Rodney. Those are very salient, to the point, issues that you just raised, the talent is there.